Welcome back to Tornabar News, the only place on the internet where we tear the news apart bit by bit until we can finally vanquish the forces of evil with the power of dancing.
It's on!
No! God, please, no! No!
Thank you for being here, and today we're talking about A Quiet Place, but we're not talking about the original A Quiet Place, we're talking about a prequel spin-off movie called A Quiet Place Day One. A lot of people said that this was gonna be a disaster because nobody is actually interested in apocalyptic stories. Most people are interested in post-apocalyptic stories. I mean, look at The Last of Us and The Walking Dead, for example. Those two things are incredibly popular and we don't give a shit about how it actually happened, right? But anyways, here we are, we have a trailer for it, we have an official poster, we know the casting as well, but we still don't know what the movie is actually about. But we do know one thing, there is one character that we already know that we met in A Quiet Place Part 2, and he's played by Jimon Hunsu, and he's playing someone called the Man on the Island, which is the guy that Emily Blunt basically meets towards the middle part of the movie, and he's created a community on that island. So he's the guy that we'll be following along the lines of the character played by Lupita Nyong'o, and I suppose Alex Wolff as well. If we go back to the trailer, honestly it looks quite cool. The special effects look cool, and I like the idea of this particular apocalypse, mostly because there is no way that they're gonna understand that they have to be absolutely quiet, which means that it's gonna be a slaughter for almost the entire runtime of the movie. There is gonna be so many people dying left and right, and that's what we love to see as horror fans at the end of the day. We're a bit disturbed. The movie is coming out on June 28th, and I'm definitely gonna check it out, mostly because I learned also that it's directed by Michael Sarnowski, who you might know because he directed the Nicolas Cage weird drama called Pig, which came out in 2021 and got him a lot of Oscar attention. But apparently he's supposed to be directing A Quiet Place Part 3 as well, which is supposed to come out next year. Let's head into our second piece of news and talk about Francis Ford Coppola's movie Megalopolis. This movie has been in production and in the conscious mind of movie fans since the 80s. He's been working on his passion project since the 80s. He's done table reads with a lot of famous actors like Nicolas Cage and Robert De Niro back in 2001. Around that time, he also gathered almost 30 hours of second unit footage of New York, and then unfortunately he stopped everything because of 9/11 and he was not able to work on that project anymore and basically called it quits in 2007. And this has to do most of the fact that this movie is taking place in New York, and the reconstruction of New York is kind of like the main aspect of it. And basically it's about a woman called Julia Cicero who is divided between loyalties to her father Frank, who has a classical view of society, and her architect lover Caesar, who is more progressive and ready for the future. He wants to rebuild New York City as a utopia following a devastating disaster. So the movie went back into pre-production in 2019, so it's kind of insane for how long this movie has been in the works when you think about it. And the ensemble cast that Coppola has managed to gather is quite insane. For example, we've got people like Adam Driver, Forrest Whitaker, John Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, Jason Schwartzman, or even Dustin Hoffman and Giancarlo Esposito. There is one thing that kind of gets me worried about this project, and it's mostly to do with the fact that Coppola hasn't directed anything since the movie Twixt in 2011, movie that I've never heard of before. I don't even recognize the poster at the end of the day, but he hasn't made a successful movie since Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1992. And I kind of have a problem with these really old directors coming in and making really ambitious projects at the end of their lives, at the end of the day, being completely out of touch with the public. I feel like Martin Scorsese does that once in a while. It makes a really good movie, and then sometimes he makes something like Silence, which is definitely one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. But we also have the opposite side of that, with George Miller coming back to make Mad Max Fury Road. So it could be either a masterpiece or the most pretentious movie movie ever made, which will bore everyone, but cinephiles will still love it just because it's Francis Ford Coppola's probably last movie. Let's head into our last piece of news of today and talk about Coyote versus Acme. This is probably the end of a very interesting journey through the movie news, because apparently Warner Brothers has turned down all the bids coming from Amazon, Netflix and Paramount, and it's gonna be taking the tax cut of $30 million and will never basically be able to see the movie. Allegedly Zaslav has not even seen the movie, but that doesn't surprise me that much because he's so high up when it comes to leading this huge company that he would probably have other people watch it for him and make that decision as well, and he's just controlling the big picture basically. So that doesn't tell me a lot. Most of these businessmen, they don't watch movies, they're not cinephiles, they're businessmen. That's why they run these incredible companies. So that's not what worries me the most. The thing that I was intrigued by is the fact that the South by Southwest festival actually asked Warner Brothers to premiere the movie at their festival this year, because they sometimes premiere movies that are not finished, and they refused once again. So I'm afraid that we'll never be able to see Coyote versus Acme because Warner Brothers just doesn't want us to see it, and it really sucks because I've seen through the comments that there's a lot of people who are interested in seeing that movie as well. Let's end into our bonus news right now. This is where I rapid fire as many movie and TV news as fast as possible so that you can go back to your lives.
Finally!
First of all, we have a Moana title announcement teaser trailer that came out. It's really funny because I was sitting there watching this trailer and I was like, okay, what is the title gonna be? Because it sounded like something cool. And then Moana 2 appeared on screen and I was like, do we needed a title announcement? You just put a 2 on the title. And basically you haven't heard about this because it was supposed to be a series, and basically they decided to put all the episodes together and make a movie out of it, mostly because Disney has been going away from the Disney Plus strategy a little bit for the future, mostly because it's not really been working out. The only things that we know is that Lin-Manuel Miranda is not coming back to write the songs, and we also don't know if the 2 main actors are coming back to voice the main characters. Dwayne Johnson or even Oli Carvalho, they're not really been announced or attached to this project at all, and that worries me a little bit. We have a first teaser for a series called Tales of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which happens in the same universe of the movie that came out last year, so Mutant Mayhem. It looks quite cool at the end of the day, and it's coming out this summer on Paramount Plus. Apparently we're gonna be getting a new Game of Thrones spin-off series called Aegon's Conquest, and the writer attached to it, it's Mattson Tomlin, who you might know because of the movie Batman, and it is still an adaptation of the book Fire and Blood. It's just that that book is incredibly huge and there is a lot of material. Percy Jackson has been renewed for a season 2, of course. We've got a first teaser trailer for a horror movie called Cuckoo, which is starring Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens. It looks really creepy. I really think you should check it out. We have a new clip for Inside Out 2, the first time that we get to see Riley on screen as well and not just the emotions. We also have a poster for the series Knuckles and also a trailer for it. It's coming out on April 26th on Paramount Plus. We know that basically the entire voice cast is coming back, so Idris Elba as well. It looks interesting, but at the end of the day I wonder why not just turn it into a movie. I'm not interested by the series itself, but I am interested by a potential movie. So here you go. A last piece of news, the Oscars will introduce a best casting category for 2026. This makes me think, is the prize gonna go to the casting director then? And how far are we from doing best stuntman performance as well, or also mocap performance awards, because those are things that need to be recognized at the Oscars as well. I really hope that we get there really soon. And now let's end this episode with my favorite segment of the week, which is called And for Something Weird. And this is where I talk to you about a very weird piece of movie/TV news that has happened this week. And I'm gonna show you a trailer this time around for a movie that doesn't look like a movie but ends up becoming a horror movie.
On Halloween night, 1977, America gathered around for a live TV event that shocked a nation. Late Night with the Devil.
Quite intriguing, right? Anyways, this is everything for today on Torn Apart News. Don't forget to tune in next week on Monday for more movie and TV news. I'm Patrick and this is Torn Apart News.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show.
Da, 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da.